Remote viewing did not begin as a rumor on the internet. It took shape in cold rooms where clocks ticked and pencils scratched across government paper. During the Cold War, analysts asked a radical question. Can attention reach where bodies cannot? Volunteers sat at plain metal desks, blind to the target, given only a random code. They quieted their breath, let stray thoughts pass, and wrote the first impressions without judgment. Textures, temperatures, sounds, angles, motion. A quick ideogram, a curve, a spire, a hollow, the smell of oil or salt. No storytelling, just data. Minutes later, sketches emerged that sometimes lined up with reconnaissance photos taken weeks after. Many sessions failed. Some did not. That inconsistency is the reason the file never really closed. Intelligence officers called it a long shot worth taking when every other sensor was blind. This is the ground we stand on, not myth, but a documented attempt to turn focused awareness into an instrument. Our path stays with the method, how viewers prepare, how protocols reduce guesswork, how results are scored, while using a few first-hand claims, including Kevin Trudeau's, only as case notes, not the main event. Begin with one premise. If attention is trainable, then perception might be wider than we were taught. Remote viewing demanded discipline. Before any session, viewers followed a routine that looked simple but acted like scaffolding. A notebook, a pen, a random number sealed in an envelope. The monitor, a second person in the room, kept track of time and asked neutral prompts. Describe the target. The viewer closed their eyes, let the code number echo in mind, and noted the first fragmentary impressions. The hardest rule: never interpret, never label. If the mind whispered, "This is a submarine," that was thrown away. Only sensations mattered: wet, metallic, confined, cylindrical. The process built layer by layer. First ideograms, then sensory details, then dimensional sketches, and finally composites. Later, analysts compared these sheets with known satellite images or field reports. In many archives, you can see crude pencil sketches sitting beside declassified photographs, sometimes eerily aligned. It was never a crystal ball. Instead, it was treated like another sensor, one with noise and artifacts, but occasionally surprising signal. The program's secrecy fed the legend, but the method itself was procedural, almost mechanical. Remote viewers trained to empty themselves, to write without editing, to trust fragments over guesses. That is what distinguished the practice from imagination, the insistence on raw perception, stripped of story. And this is the line where myth often enters, when claims stretch beyond protocol. But at its core, remote viewing was never about prophecy. It was about attention sharpened to a razor's edge. The military framed remote viewing as an experiment, but inside the rooms it felt different. Many of the early viewers reported that time blurred, as if minutes expanded into hours. Some described a sudden drop into a blank screen, followed by flashes of color, shape, or sound that didn't belong to the room they were in. The monitor's voice anchored them. Focus on the target. Describe the visuals. What do you sense? The odd thing is that the impressions were often mundane. Instead of exotic images of secret bunkers or alien landscapes, notes contained words like stone, green, open field, noise of water. When later checked against real targets, sometimes those fragments matched, sometimes not. The pattern confused even the scientists. Was the mind reaching across distance, or was it simply assembling random images under pressure? Statistical reviews showed the accuracy hovered above chance, but not by a wide margin. And yet the stories persisted because of the few moments when data was too precise to dismiss. A sketch of a cooling tower, a map-like diagram, a coded sequence of numbers, all written before the target was revealed. These anomalies became fuel for believers, while skeptics insisted they were accidents of probability. The tension between proof and possibility defined the field. Remote viewing lived in that gray zone where science hesitated, but curiosity refused to let go. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss the next one. One of the strangest aspects of remote viewing was how ordinary people could sometimes perform better than trained professionals. Recruits with no background in the military or intelligence field were brought into the program, sat in a quiet room, and asked to describe whatever impressions surfaced. To everyone's surprise, some of these so-called amateurs produced sketches and notes that matched the hidden targets with uncanny detail. A warehouse layout, the curve of a bridge, even the shape of a foreign radar dish. Things they had no logical way of knowing. This unpredictability fascinated the program's directors, but also frustrated them. If the ability appeared randomly, how could it be harnessed systematically? Psychologists debated whether it was a matter of altered brain states, deep intuition, or subconscious pattern recognition. Spiritual practitioners claimed it was evidence of the human mind's connection to a greater field of consciousness. Between those extremes, analysts tried to create protocols, set times, double-blind targets, neutral monitors. They discovered that too much pressure ruined the results, but relaxed conditions sometimes opened the channel. The reports often used the phrase perceptual breakthrough, a moment when the mental static cleared and the viewer saw something crisp, as if a window had briefly opened. These moments were rare but electrifying, leaving both believers and skeptics unable to dismiss them completely. The bigger question remained unsolved. Were these glimpses of a hidden human capacity, or just fragments of chance woven into stories of mystery? The government's official stance was always that remote viewing was unreliable, but behind closed doors, the persistence of the program told another story. Documents later declassified revealed that for nearly 2 decades, funding quietly flowed into the project even when reports labeled it inconclusive. Why would the CIA and the military invest millions of dollars in something if it was nothing more than fantasy? Insiders argued that even a 1% success rate could be valuable in intelligence work. If a psychic sketch could suggest the location of a missing aircraft or hint at the existence of a secret facility, it was worth the gamble. Some officers described remote viewing as a tool of last resort, something to consult when all conventional methods failed. Others warned that relying on such uncertain data could be dangerous, leading to wasted resources or false conclusions. The tension between skepticism and possibility gave the project its strange half-life. It was never fully embraced, yet never fully discarded. Even today, people debate whether the files released to the public tell the full truth. Some claim the best results were classified at higher levels and remain hidden. Others say the program was more about psychological experiments than psychic powers, a way to test how suggestion and belief shape human perception. Whatever the case, remote viewing became part of the folklore of the intelligence world, a reminder that even the most powerful institutions sometimes gamble on the mysteries of the human mind. Among the most famous remote viewers was Joseph McMoneagle, a man who later spoke publicly about his experiences. He claimed to have seen places and events that no photograph or spy satellite had yet revealed. In interviews, he described how he once drew the inside of a secret Soviet submarine years before the U.S. Navy confirmed its existence. His sketches reportedly matched the submarine's unusual double-hull design. Skeptics argue that this was coincidence or clever guesswork, but believers say it was proof that remote viewing could pierce the Iron Curtain. Stories like these gave the project its aura of mystery. Each time a viewer produced a startlingly accurate detail, hope surged within the program. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new intelligence frontier. But just as often, the descriptions were vague, inconsistent, or flatly wrong, fueling frustration and doubt. Still, the very possibility that a human mind could transcend space and see into guarded secrets was too tempting to abandon. For some, it suggested that consciousness itself was a tool not yet understood. For others, it was a reminder that even the sharpest intelligence agencies can be seduced by the promise of the unknown. The debate over McMoneagle and his peers continues, with their stories occupying a strange middle ground between history, myth, and speculation. They were part scientists, part mystics, and part pawns in a larger game of Cold War imagination. As the years went on, the secret programs became a mirror of the Cold War itself, part science, part superstition, and part theater. In one declassified memo, officials admitted that the results were inconsistent, yet they kept the funding alive because of a simple fear. If the United States abandoned the project, the Soviets might gain an edge in a battlefield that existed only in the mind. This paranoia kept the doors open for experiments, even when skepticism was thick in the air. For the viewers themselves, the work was a strange blend of discipline and faith. They would sit in quiet rooms, sketching impressions of targets they could not see, describing shapes, textures, and feelings that seemed to drift from some invisible source. Sometimes they were praised for uncanny accuracy, other times dismissed as failures. The psychological toll was real. Some viewers described feeling drained, disoriented, even haunted by the things they believed they had witnessed. For those on the outside, the entire project seemed like an expensive illusion, a government chasing ghosts. But for the men and women inside, it was a glimpse into a realm that science had yet to map, and perhaps never would. The documents may list these experiments as intelligence failures, but the participants often speak of them with reverence, as if they had touched the edges of a secret world that defies explanation. Whether that world was real or imagined, it left a mark not only on the history of espionage, but on the question of what the human mind might truly be capable of. Even today, whispers of those experiments linger in the corridors of conspiracy forums and the footnotes of intelligence history. Some say the programs were abandoned because they proved nothing. Others claim they were buried deeper, hidden under new code names and secret budgets, still alive in the shadows. The truth may be impossible to pin down because what is at stake is not just whether remote viewing worked as a tool of espionage, but whether human consciousness itself holds powers we barely understand. Kevin Trudeau's words echo this tension. He frames his experience as proof that the Brotherhood, intelligence agencies, and mystics across the globe all tapped into the same hidden current. For skeptics, it is a story of gullibility and manipulation. For believers, it is validation that ancient practices and modern science brushed against the same frontier. Perhaps that is why these accounts fascinate us. They sit at the intersection of what we know and what we fear might be true. In the end, remote viewing remains less about seeing a building in Moscow or a submarine in the ocean, and more about confronting the mystery of the human mind itself. Whether a classified success or a classified failure, the idea refuses to die. It drifts forward in books, interviews, and videos like this one, daring us to wonder, are these just stories or glimpses of a reality waiting to be unlocked? One of these remote viewers described the exact location of a kidnapped NATO general, and many of the details turned out to be correct. Another time, before American satellites even discovered it, a psychic viewer outlined the design and location of a brand new Soviet nuclear submarine, and this is where Kevin Trudeau claims he was right inside these circles, connected to the Brotherhood, and even sitting down with world leaders like Mikhail Gorbachev to discuss these very subjects. But here's the real question. Do you think remote viewing is a genuine hidden ability, or just another myth wrapped in mystery? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below.